Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis. It is Tuesday, December 15th, and we've got a guest speaker on today.
The boss is here.
The boss is here. We've got Jen, who's joining us. Let me do a quick start up here like I need to do. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me is Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple, as well as his boss, Jen, which we love having a guest speaker. Before we get into it, I do need to share that trading involves risk, may not be appropriate for everyone, and that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. I'd also like to mention that this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your educational purposes. So, so Jen, is she going to tell us what she thinks is going on?
Yeah, she does actually. It is funny. She does like to point at charts a lot of times. So this is my trading buddy. As I trade, she sits on my lap and she watches her stuff. And she's pretty funny. She does like charts. She's watching already. At 2, she's 2.5. She's a little bit young for trading. But I will say, for those of you out there with kids, get them involved. My 12-year-olds are, I guess they're 10 now, but at 12 they'll get the full kind of course rundown. But they're already starting to look at charts and understand things. So make sure you pass it to the next generation.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, it's kind of an interesting day out in the markets. Unfortunately, my charts are not uploading again. So if anybody wants to see charts today, you guys have to log in at noon. We know that software is working fine. So we're going to be using Todd's charts today just to kind of talk about where things are. Brexit, we're kind of back to where we were before. It's one good day, one bad day, kind of retracing. Yesterday, we talked about a level up around 91.50, basically filling the Friday gap. And we did. Early this morning, about 4 or 5 hours ago, we ended up coming up and getting right up to that level. So again, this is one of those things where Nadex, you don't necessarily need to be exact. You need to find the right area. And we've pushed back down again. So we've gone from, again, you're going to have to check this out at noon, but going from high in the curve back into that kind of low/intermediate level. Now, it's kind of right in the middle of that range, but I think the 91.50 is a level that we need to kind of keep on our radar as potential entries. As well as on the downside, I do think buyers will step back in around 89, 98-ish. That 90 mark at the bottom, again, psychological number. Again, we're still waiting for any type of really a kind of official confirmation. The last we heard was, basically Boris saying that, a no Brexit deal is still the most likely outcome. We want to make sure that FTA with EU is as soon as possible, and we want a deal, but we're not going to do it at any cost. So they haven't said we're done. It's definitely not coming. They're still talking. They're still kind of going back and forth with everything. And until they say it's official, it's going to be a no deal, there's still hope, and hope is what's driving the market right now. And again, the market took that as a positive kind of move in the markets.
Indeed. And here, I'm extending out some of our levels that we had from last week, and let me just bring them all up current just so we could see where they were. As you mentioned, first it was this thing isn't going to happen, and there was definitely some resistance up here, 91.40, 91.50. Then everything was going to be great. Oh, they're going to meet, they're going to have dinner, everything's going to be wonderful, and then the everything just went into the tank.
Nothing happened. Yeah, it was like, oh, we didn't agree on anything, and it went the other way.
And we're seeing, and then buyers stepped in right around that 90-ish level, and then everything sort of just completely fell apart. We watched this. It did get stuck here at this 91.40 level before it just went way through it. Like, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Back to, all right, we're still going to try to solve this, and we see that gap lower as we started the week. Things continue to get better. Then again, things continue to get worse. We're back at that. That 91.40 level, definitely an interesting level where sellers do step in. We did almost fill that gap entirely.
Yeah, depending on your broker, you may or may not have filled it.
Right. So, and then here we are. Things, some good news starts coming out that they don't want to. They're not going to do it at any cost, but there's still an interesting in seeing something get done. Immediately some good news that comes right off that 91.40 level. How would someone play this in the Nadex markets? If you thought there was going to be some support down here, there are some knockouts that if you wanted to try to play a rebound, a bounce, we know that buyers tend to kind of step in around this 90-ish level, if it were to come down here, it could be an opportunity to say, okay, I think they're going to come in in a very limited risk reward way, potentially catch a bounce, not knowing, of course, that if something completely goes through and we are totally saved, I mean,
Yeah.
it could drop through here, or bad news again, and this thing just goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So there are some
And that's
knockouts.
what it's going to be. When it's 100%, it's definitely no deal or it's definitely deal. There's going to be movement because then again, it goes back to certainty. Right now, we're still in that kind of uncertain period. We're not sure exactly what's going to happen.
And it just sort of is bouncing in between some ranges. So the euro pound, definitely someplace to keep an eye out. Definitely news driven.
Yeah, and for those of you that are able to attend, there's a level that I talked about with my students yesterday in the pound yen. It's bounced off that level, but it's given some pretty good signals. So if you dial back in today at noon, I'll be able to share the chart for the pound yen. There's an interesting setup there. If price continues to show us pound weakness, which again, as we're pushing down to levels of where we've seen it before, if it steps back in, there may be another trade setup for that one later.
And that is actually a really good plug for today at noon. Be sure to sign up for Brian's session, and he'll do a deep dive into all the markets and beyond just a little idea of what to be looking at today. I think the other thing we wanted to look at, Jen likes gold, right?
Yeah, yes, she is already into that's one of her favorites is gold. I don't know if you saw it earlier. You're talking about Brexit, and she was shaking her head no. So she believes that it's going to be a no deal. So that's her take on it. But yeah, gold's an interesting situation too. Again, gold for the last, I don't know, day, 2 days has really kind of ground higher, and it's coming up to a level around that 1860 level we've talked about in the past, and it's really the last level that's really been a tested level where sellers have come in and kind of shot price down. Anybody that's out there looking at charts, drop it down to a 30-minute chart. And if you look to the left from where current price is, you should see where there's almost like a cliff, right? And there's that little test where price pushed down, kind of base came back and grabbed that level right around 1860, and then two very very strong candles to the downside. So again, it's not crystal ball trading, but it is an area where sellers have stepped in the past. It has been a psychological level both for the top and the bottom side, and really for the last day since this weekend opened, price has been grinding higher with kind of talks of stimulus. And yesterday we saw some numbers thrown out there for stimulus, nothing official yet. But anytime that S word comes up, it goes higher. And, obviously if there is a rejection of stimulus whatsoever, obviously that is bad for the gold story. So again, that would be one of the catalysts for this to kind of roll and flip over. I don't see us getting a deal done for on a Tuesday.
There we go. So, right. Yeah. If nothing happens, this is a level right here where you can be looking right around that 1860 level. Again, one of those zero levels that become psychological as well. Yeah. If you're looking for a rollover, there's some knockouts that you could take a look at in here. In fact, I wanted to jump over and just see, was there anything in the call spreads for gold? We'll take a look at the daily. And, there are some. Let's move the chart down some.
Yeah, I think there's an 1875.
Yeah,
there is actually a level up at 1870 as well, but I don't know that today we'll have enough catalyst to go through the 1860 with lack of really any U.S. economic news today. It's just purely stimulus and kind of just it's just talking heads. There's no official kind of economic data today. That all kicks in tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning's crazy.
So with that, right, there's some ideas with call spreads, knockouts. Of course, you could be doing any of this with binary options, much smaller contracts, and you could choose whichever level you wanted. But if if 1860, all of a sudden some of these other, if you thought it was going to roll over, you could find a knockout that might have a higher probability that you can sell, take advantage of. Remember, you don't have to hold these till expiration. You can day trade these. So,
and remember too,
probabilities.
And another reason why you're seeing gold spike as well is because of oil that's been going up. Oil was kind of the third one I just wanted to briefly touch on. The level we mentioned yesterday in oil was that 4750 area. We also mentioned that if price was coming down, an area where we want to make sure we were catching profit or taking a bounce off of was that 4620. It actually came down, it based right through it, broke a little bit lower, and then literally on a 30-minute shot straight back up again, and now we're back in that 4750 range again. We do have oil inventory reports tomorrow, but if gold does decide that it's going to roll yet again on this 47.15 push down, we will probably also see gold follow oil on this one and kind of roll at the same time. Energy and gold tend to be a bit linked.
All right. Well, I think that gave everyone a couple of opportunities. The
say goodbye.
The euro pound,
say bye, bye?
gold, and even a touch into oil.
Can you say bye-bye?
If you have any questions for Nadex, please email us customerservice@nadex.com. If you got any questions for Brian, support@keeptradingsimple.com. If you got any questions for Jen, take them to Brian.
Yeah, I'll translate for her. She can't type yet. Her fingers are too small, but I'll translate for you guys.
Perfect. And please go to the Nadex website. Under Learning Webinars, you can register for Brian's webinar today. It is at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. He'll do a deep dive into all the markets with all the analysis, and his charts should be functioning there.
Yep.
With that, thank you for joining us today. A reminder, we will not be on tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning we are off. I've got to take care of some personal business, but we'll be back on Thursday morning. And that reminds me, on Thursday, we are running our day trading boot camp. Guy Adami is going to be kicking it off. So if you haven't registered for that, go to the Nadex website as well. And you'll see the day trading boot camp for this Thursday. Guy Adami is going to talk about trader mentality. I'll talk about short-term price action products and tools at Nadex. And my colleague Dan Cook is going to be talking about some strategies with binary options, call spreads, and knockouts, and different things that you can do in our markets. So please register for that and join us on Thursday. So see Brian today at noon, and then we'll be back on Thursday. Thanks, everyone. Good luck in the markets.